Hello, I'm Heather. Welcome. I invite you to pretend as if you just walked into my backyard and you're joining me, and you're kind of taking a seat, getting settled. And now I'm imagining that anyone who happens to ever watch this video is now sitting around this fire with me. And they're kind of curious and don't really know what's going to happen, but they know they were called to be here. And they're just waiting to see what I guide them to do next, or what invitations I offer. So I do have a little fire here to my right. It's not going to last a lot longer. I purposefully didn't make a very big fire because I wanted to keep this video really short. And every once in a while, I'm going to add a little bit of paper to cut down on the smoke a little because it's not a very hot fire. So first, let's find your spot wherever you're going to listen. And let's take 3 deep breaths together. You inhale through the nose, deep into the lower belly. And exhale completely with even a little bit of sound. One more time, really deeply into the belly, the biggest breath you've taken all day. And out completely. Okay, so I am just kind of following a little inspiration, and I tried to do as little prep as possible, and so that's why I'm still fidgeting a bit. I'm not quite comfortable. I'm barefoot on the grass, but I don't really want to sit directly on the grass because the ground is so wet. So now I'm sitting on my garden shoes. All right, so, and one of the bright spots that popped up was a year ago or 2 years ago. This time of October in 2019, I was in Utah at a really profoundly transformational retreat. I met some pretty incredible women there. It was a women's only retreat. The one man in attendance was the primary facilitator's husband, and he was amazing. He was amazing. It was wonderful to have him there. He primarily was in a support role, but there was a couple of times where he participated really fully in different activities too. So some of these photos popped up in my memories today, and it was just of the space. There was almost no photos of people. I think there was one of me and one of another participant, but mostly it was the space, and reminding me that one of the roles I played had really cracked me up. But the space was so beautiful, and it had this incredible view and these just really spacious rooms. And the room that I got to be in had it's actually, at the time at least, this home was owned by Teal Swan and her people. And so she had put some murals in the house, and they're signed and everything. And so the room that I got to stay in was one that Teal Swan had done a mural on the entire wall that the bed was up against. And yeah, there was just a lot about this space that was really magical. And one of my favorite parts that I got to do, I was an assistant for the facilitation team. I was the best suited to kind of park all the cars, because what we were trying to do is we were using an Airbnb, so typically it's a private home, and it was in a really high-end neighborhood that didn't allow a lot of cars parked like on the street. And so we had to Tetris in a whole bunch of cars in this it was a very big driveway, but also there were a lot of technical difficulties, and a lot of people showed up in beautiful cars. Yet I was able to Tetris in an insane number of vehicles in a ridiculously small space without damaging any property whatsoever. And I was really, really proud of that. But I had to keep going out and moving the cars, every so often, so that people could come or go or whatever. But why that's important is because I like to pay attention to cycles. And my system really does follow the natural cycles of the earth. And in one way that shows up is in the fall when the trees are dropping their leaves, which is a completely natural and, I'm assuming, painless process. I do the same, however, it's never painful, and it always feels unnatural, even though it's not. But I also tend to, over the past several years, I've participated in some sort of really profoundly transformative, deep, kind of authentic relating retreat, either in late September or early October for the past several years. And then after those retreats, I come back and absolutely everything in my world changes really rapidly. And so this particular retreat in October of 2019 could not have been better, more well-timed to prepare me for releasing all that I needed to release, even the really unexpected things like a business that I thought I was committed to, and I thought my business partner was committed to me being a part of as well. All of that changed in the course of just a few months. I ended up in 2020 giving up a home, my dog, my daughter moved out quite a bit earlier than a year earlier than I anticipated. Relationships, quite a few relationships ended, including my closest intimate relationship. We did end up getting back together towards the end of the year, but yeah, every aspect changed really quickly after that. And it wasn't just all the turmoil in the world from 2020. It was also my own turmoil and huge things going on. So another thing that I often do in the fall is I do a lot of rideshare driving. And this morning was one of the first mornings that I'd been back out to do kind of a rush hour shift. And I got to have quite a few really cool experiences. I think I did 4 trips. I also got my car washed and vacuumed while I was out. And the last rider, I'll focus on her and then I'll end this video because I wanted to keep it on the shorter side. The last rider was a very short trip. It was about 5 minutes, and it was taking this older woman, my guess she was late 60s, 70s, I don't know, hard to say exactly. I couldn't see her whole face. Home from the car dealership, like she dropped off her vehicle for service. And she came out really hesitantly, and we exchanged names and to confirm, that we were the right match. And she said, I was expecting a dealership car, like logoed and stuff on the side. And I said, oh yeah, I don't think most companies do that anymore. It's just cheaper just to get a lift for people instead of keeping somebody on staff all the time to give rides. And she's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then we just, had a nice chat the whole rest of the time. She asked me, she said, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I'm just really curious. How do you make money as a rideshare driver? How does that work? So I told her, it's, mileage and time, and sometimes there's bonuses, and then there's tips, and she just asked me a bunch of other questions, and then when I pulled in front of her home, she gave me a couple of dollars cash and she said, thanks for mentioning the tips, or I wouldn't have thought of it. And then she just said, thank you for our conversation, and you are blessed. Now, I'm not saying that exactly right. I know it was slightly different than that, but it was something that gave me the feeling that she believed, blessing or sharing a blessing, and felt like I was a blessing for her. So I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but I just thought that was so lovely. It's just such a wonderful way to End of little interaction, you know? And it was so genuine and even though brief, still really impactful. And that kind of inspire me to, you know, there's this whole range of ideas that I could do, but I realize one of the gifts of being a rideshare driver is all of the practice that I get to have. Kind of navigating really clear communication with a wide variety of people, and navigating consent and boundaries, particularly in this fall of 2021 times when there are mask mandates. And as a driver, I'm required to keep at least a couple of windows down to promote airflow. And so things are a little different than it used to be. And so nearly every rider, especially if there's some issue where they don't like the windows down or they forgot their mask or, you know, something, we have to engage in a conversation that we never would have had to engage in before. And I'm really proud of how far I feel like I've come in my ability to communicate clearly with people, and my confidence and safety and feeling safe in being clear about what my boundaries are and what I've given consent to and what I haven't. And I guess as an example of that, I'll give another little quick example. Another one of my rides, again, was picking somebody up from a dealership. And I only could see just his eyes because he was wearing like one of these things that comes all the way down and covers his whole face. It was like a ski mask almost. He tried to get in the front seat first. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't have front seat riders. And then he got in the back and very quickly, within moments, asked, you know, can you put this window up? It's too cold. And I said, no, I need to keep the windows cracked for airflow. And then he said, well, can you turn the AC on? And I pretty quickly, he's like, it's cold. I mean, he says it's cold. Can you turn the AC on? And I realized that he just said the wrong thing. So like, yeah, I can turn the heat up. He's like, yeah, that'd be great. So even though that was a pretty brief conversation, it in the past, I would have struggled much more. I might have just gone ahead and put the window up. He didn't even ask. He just said, can you put the window up? You know, kind of in that sort of tone. That's part of why I responded with no in the way that I did. Like if he would have said, hey, it's really cold, can you put the window up? I would have said, you know, I'm really not supposed to. I could turn the heat up. How about that? Like we would have said almost the exact same words, but it feels a lot different. In the past, that kind of more abrupt approach would have put my system anxious enough that I would have had a hard time saying no. And I'm not quite sure exactly. I mean, there are times when I would have put the window up and just been anxious that I was breaking the rules and also putting my health at risk. And not willing to do that. So anyway, so another part of the idea that I wanted to say, one end of the spectrum could be I might have friends kind of reenact some of my favorite rides with me because I just really have the most incredible experiences in my car, and I'd love to share more stories about them. And my car's name is Badass, the Magical Manifestation Machine, because we have done more than 10,000 rideshare trips together, plus just all the life that I live in my car, and had some pretty incredible experiences. So I'm excited to start telling more stories about my adventures with Badass, the Magical Manifestation Machine. Okay, so this video went completely differently than I expected. It doesn't even quite fit what my original idea was, but whatever. Just letting it go. So I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for being on the receiving end. I look forward to hearing any thoughts or questions you might have, or any of the ideas that I kind of threw out there that sound particularly exciting to you. I'd like to know which ones. And yeah, I expect to come back more and do more kind of tuning into what's been going on over these past couple of years, because it's time for me to do some real self-reflection and integration. And I finally have a little bit of space to do that. So, have a great day. How do I end it? There we go. End. I already said that.